Welcome back to In Case You Missed It Wrestling, and today is Friday. That means we are talking Friday Night Smackdown. Couple of things to announce at the beginning of this. We will be moving to a new schedule here next week. We're going to try it out. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to this. But I do want to try to get these out the next day. I want to be getting these out ahead of time so it isn't only relevant for a handful of hours, right? So these can be seen throughout the week and you can kind of get an idea of what happened the night before if you missed it and probably won't have the ability to watch it. That's the whole goal of the podcast. And I think the best way to do that is doing it next day. So we're going to give it a shot. We're going to try our best to do it next day. But that also means we will be summarizing a lot more things into less detail and covering things a little bit lighter. We'll go over the matches for sure. We're still going to do match ratings. Like if you've watched this week, I've talked about it. We're beginning to do match ratings as well. But the long promos will be summarized even more, and the backstage segments will be summarized completely outside of maybe a quote or two that must be said. So we will be doing that next week. So Monday Night Raw will be coming out on Tuesday, NXT will come out on Wednesday, and SmackDown will come out on Saturday. So that is the goal. And then the PLEs and special events supposed to come out on Sunday, but we might be doing it on Monday. We'll just have to see how it goes. The PLEs are a little bit different because we do want to go into a little bit more detail and talk about a little bit more things and kind of give a full-fledged review of it. The podcast is just supposed to be a weekly recap of each episode. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into Friday Night SmackDown. SmackDown this week was super interesting because it felt like there was a lot of filler, if that makes sense. It feels like there was a lot of time wasted with doing promotional material, not promos from wrestlers, but just promotional material for the Rumble and things they have coming up like WrestleMania and all these sort of things, and just odd commercial breaks. And the flow of SmackDown is weird recently. And I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't love the way the show is working right now. And I feel like they feel the need to cut things or add unnecessary things to make the show the time limit that they need it to be. And I just don't understand why they don't just tack that onto matches or, give somebody a spot to talk for a handful of minutes, whatever. But it does feel weird. The flow is very interrupted. Like Netflix has a very, very, very good flow. NXT has a pretty decent flow, but theirs is the same week to week. It's very similar every week where you'll get a match to start off the night usually, or a big promo segment. And then as soon as that is over, you'll go into some backstage content, an entrance, more backstage content, then an entrance, or just going out to the ring for a match, right? Very, very similar flow. You know what to expect. SmackDown has been weird where you don't quite know what to expect. And they put commercials in odd spots. And it just feels weird. SmackDown just feels weird. But this is pre-Rumble. We've already covered the Rumble. This is another reason why I wanted to start doing these next day, is it did leave a little awkward time. Because if you're watching the Rumble and haven't watched SmackDown from last week and now you're watching this, some of the things have somewhat been spoiled. But if you go on the internet, most of these things have probably been spoiled from last week anyway. But let's just go ahead and get into it because there is a lot to go over. We'd start off the show with Joe Testoroy giving an interview to Kevin Owens as he gave a interview to Cody Rhodes last week. And Kevin Owens during the show said that it was unfair that he should have an interview. Joe Testoroy would ask him what are we missing and what's being misrepresented or misunderstood about you and Cody. Kevin Owens would say that he is tired of the disrespect and nobody respects him in the back, and that he is going to beat Cody tomorrow and take the championship. CM Punk would come out during this promo and say that he is going to win the Royal Rumble, and whether Kevin Owens or Cody Rhodes wins, he is coming for them. Kevin Owens would say there's a lot of other guys that he would rather have win the Royal Rumble than CM Punk. But when he thinks about it, he wouldn't mind it if CM Punk won, so he could beat him in the main event of WrestleMania. He would then call out CM Punk for not having a WrestleMania main event moment like Kevin Owens does. Kevin Owens has two WrestleMania main events, one with Stone Cold Steve Austin and the other one with the Tag Team Championships with Sami Zayn at WrestleMania 39. CM Punk would take offense to that and call out Kevin Owens to try to get him to fight him in the ring that night, but Kevin Owens would walk away. We'd move backstage with Nick Aldis. The Miz is mad that he made friends with A-Town Down Under and they were sent to Raw immediately after. And he would try to make friends with Andrade, and Andrade would just walk away. He would say he should kick Andrade's tail for that, and Andrade would walk up and challenge him to a match. Aldis agrees, and they will face off later that night. The first match of the night would be Carmelo Hayes versus Jimmy Uso. Both of them would cut promos on the way to the ring, basically trash talking each other. This was a really, really good match. Carmelo continues to put out really, really good matches every week. And Jimmy Uso is also surprisingly good. Like, I've always known Jimmy Uso was good. There's no way he doesn't have the accolades he does with Jay if he wasn't good, if he couldn't carry his weight in that whole tag team. But him on a singles run now has really shown that he's got a lot more in the tank than people realize, I think. Because he's pulling out moves that we've never seen him do before, right? And he's doing them like he's been doing them his entire career. I think this singles run is really good for him. I think we'll see him win a mid-card title at some point this year. I think Carmelo will win a mid-card title at some point this year too. I think the mid-card division on SmackDown is absolutely stacked right now. And adding The Miz into that also could be a really, really good thing. The Miz is a longtime veteran and he can put people over better than almost anybody else on the roster, right? He's really, really, really good at that. And we have to give him props to that. As much as I'm not a huge fan of his in-ring work, he can definitely put people over. But yeah, this was a really, really good match out of both of them. I give it a 78 out of 100, which is a 3.9 stars. So really good, almost at that 4-star level. These are the matches we kind of expect to see on TV. We don't expect like a ton of 4-star or 5-star matches on TV, right? We expect like a close 4-star. So that was really good. It was a really good TV match. I think if they faced off at a PLE, they could really step it up and get a better score, but it's still SmackDown. It's still a weekly show. There's a lot more going on the SmackDown than there is a PLE. We would go backstage with Byron Saxton again with Chelsea Green. She talks about her tag match from last week. It says, Michin tried to destroy the face of the United States champion because she had a huge welt on her lip. She says that she will win tonight, enter the Rumble, win that, and then go on to win at WrestleMania. We would go into, after the commercial break, we would go into Michin versus Chelsea Green for the United States Championship. They work extremely well together. Now, they have a long history of matches together, including time in the WWE, time in TNA, and a handful of other just independent promotions. So they know each other well, and they work extremely well together. I'm a big fan of their matches. I think they're, a quote unquote match made in heaven. They do really well together. This wasn't their best match for sure. Their best match was the dumpster match, without a doubt. That was one of the best women's matches that WWE put on in the last couple months. That one was amazing. And I wish they would do more of these hardcore style matches with the women. I think that's great. And I think it's good for the women's division. But this one was still really good. Michin would win by disqualification as Chelsea hits Michin with her own kendo stick. So we're not going to have a rating because there's no official winner, right? We're going to only rate the matches that have a full bell to bell. This one technically ended, but there was no real winner. Chelsea Green would walk away still champion after Michin would win because of the disqualification. But Michin would end up getting hers back. So all is right in the world. And I'm sure we will be seeing them face off at least one more time after this disqualification loss. Byron Saxton is backstage with Bianca and Naomi asking what happens Saturday if they're the last two women in the Rumble. They say they're going to support each other no matter who wins. And looking forward to the match they had that night with Liv and Raquel. They say that Liv and Raquel can try, but they're not going down without a fight. After this, we would see Damian Priest in the ring and cut a long promo talking about his time on Monday Night Raw. And Raw is all he's known because it's the only brand he has worked on outside of his time with NXT. He would say that he is on SmackDown now to try to make a name for himself, which I think is great. I think pulling him off of Raw and letting the Judgment Day, whatever, breathe for a little while is a great idea. Very, very good idea. He would be interrupted by Jacob Fatu, who would come out and say that they are cut from a very similar cloth, other than the fact that Jacob Fatu went to prison. He would also say that he and Tama Tonga run SmackDown, so Damian Priest can either lie down or get beat down. Damian would say, is that supposed to intimidate me, and kick Tama Tonga and begin to fight Jacob, and LA Knight would come out to assist him. We'd go backstage and see Motor City Machine Guns and Los Garza getting ready for their match. Motor City Machine Guns acknowledges the differences and say that they have their back. Santos tells Los Garza to have each other's backs, and Los Garza says that after the Rumble, if Motor City Machine Gun wins, they are coming for them. Very tense, very, very tense. Los Garza and Motor City Machine Guns would go on to face DIY and Pretty Deadly. Awesome, awesome match. This was such a good match. This match was better than the Rumble tag team match by far. And I think it's because each team was really able to showcase what they're good at. And we were able to see some different styles and how they work together and how they can make a good match. Los Garza looked good, Pretty Deadly looked good, DIY looked good, and Motor City Machine Gun looked good. They all got their own time to do their own big spots. It was awesome. This was such a good match. I cannot speak highly enough about this match. Like, if you love good tag team wrestling, this is going to be a match that you need to go watch. Throughout the match, there would be a couple of things going on that we should talk about. Motor City Machine Guns and Los Garza are not off to a good foot, but do find common ground by trying to one-up each other, which was really cool to see. They pretty much just beat up Pretty Deadly and tried to one-up the other each time. Pretty Deadly and DIY seem to be on the same page, but you can tell DIY does not respect Pretty Deadly. Los Garza would leave Motor City Machine Guns after a tag-in confusion, making it a 2-on-4. Ciampa would try to hit Sabin with a big boot, but would hit Elton Prince instead, and Pretty Deadly would leave the match. Sabin would get a surprise roll-up for the win. I gave this match a 97 out of 100, so 4.85 stars. I loved this match. This match was so good. a matter of fact, I've watched it 3 times since last week. So good. I love tag team wrestling, and this was incredible. It's a great, great showing, and I'm so excited for the SmackDown tag division. I love the SmackDown tag division. It's so good. And with Street Profits being back after the Rumble, it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better. I'm so excited. We would get a glimpse backstage with Tamatanga and Jacob Fatu walking around. They would spot the tag team titles laying around with nobody near them. Tamatanga looks like he's going to steal them, but DIY would come in and stop him. DIY would then go on to argue with Pretty Deadly about the match, and Pretty Deadly finally stands up for themselves, and they will not be there for their Rumble match, which DIY would still end up winning with the help of the Street Profits. But the Street Profits also turned on them pretty fast right after that. So a lot is going on in the SmackDown tag division. A lot is going on, and I'm very, very excited. We'd move into Naomi versus Liv Morgan. It's a surprisingly good match. I forget Liv is good sometimes when we break her outside of the matches that we see so frequently, like with her and Rhea. Like, she is good, Rhea is really good, but we see them so often together that the matches are boring, right? Now we're getting Liv Morgan versus a handful of other people. We're opening up the books. We're getting new matches. Naomi and Liv Morgan was really good. Naomi would get the win after a failed distraction by Raquel. Liv and Raquel would attack Bianca Belair and Naomi after this match. I did give it a 74 out of 100, which is a 3.7 stars. Good match, right? Good match. I think Liv Morgan's stocks will rise if she gets out of this Judgment Day vortex that she's in now. I think if she can break off and be her own, maybe with Raquel, right? But if she can get away from all of that and all that drama and kind of be herself and be her own character and not have to be Daddy Dom's little girl or whatever, Liv Morgan could have an incredible run this year. She had a pretty good run last year, but it got stale and got boring and got tiring. I think she could have a pretty good run this year if we can break away from the Judgment Day. I really think we should break up the Judgment Day, but that's just me. We'd go straight in from that to The Miz versus Andrade. Andrade is one of my favorite wrestlers on the SmackDown brand, and so it's not surprising that I think he has a really good match. The Miz holds up surprisingly well. Like, he's not the best, right? But he still works a really, really good match. It was a really, really good setup for the main event, right? I enjoyed watching it. Andrade was great. Miz was, Miz. He's getting up there in age. He wasn't the best wrestler to begin with, but he's doing his best. Like, he's doing really good work. I give this one an 81 out of 100, which is a just flat 4 stars. Really good match, right? It was good. It was really good. The matches on that episode of SmackDown were good. They were very, very good. But the pacing and timing of everything felt so off that it was like weird. The whole episode felt weird. Santos Escobar would be backstage trying to recruit Damian Priest into Legado del Fantasma. Priest would deny pretty hard and maybe set up for a potential feud, which I think anytime we can get Santos on the screen is a good thing. Good thing. Very good thing. R-Truth would also be there, and he and Priest would reunite. Priest and LA Knight would also get on the same page about the match they have, and with the Rumble the next day. Shinsuke Nakamura would be lurking in the background the whole time. And then we move into Zelina Vega confronts Tiffany Stratton, saying she wants her title and she's going to win the Rumble to take it from her. Tiffany Stratton would come out to the ring and cut a promo. She says she doesn't care who wins the Rumble because come Mania, it will be Tiffy time. Candice LeRae would interject and say that she and Nia are disrespected and they're coming for what is rightfully Nia's. Tiffany Stratton would fire back saying that they don't intimidate her and she's already beat Nia. Nia Jax would attempt to attack Tiffany Stratton, but would miss and hit Candice LeRae. We would move into the main event of the night, Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga versus LA Knight and Damian Priest. Now, this is one of the best Damian Priest matches I have watched. If you've watched the channel for a while, you know I'm very in and out on Damian Priest. Sometimes I'm very in on Damian Priest. Sometimes I don't really want to see him. I think this move to SmackDown will be good for his career, and me as a fan, I might actually be able to enjoy him a little bit more. Because when he was just feuding with the Judgment Day, it's the same thing with Rhea, same thing with Liv. I was getting tired of the same thing over and over and over again. It was just repetitive, repetitive, repetitive. And now that he's in a whole new ball game, right? A whole new world, whole brand new opportunities. There's so many people on SmackDown he could feud with, and we could see a better version of Damian Priest. And I think we're starting to get that, and I'm very excited for it. Priest would pull out some new moves. He has taken a move from Taker and adapted it to himself with, that move where Taker gets up on the top rope and walks, and then he would come down and hit him with a clothesline. Well, Priest is now doing that with a crossbody. Really cool move. I like it a lot. Jacob looks like an absolute monster. I don't know what they're doing with the bloodline. I'm going to be completely honest with you. But if Jacob Fatu is not the leader of this new faction, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know what WWE is doing. Jacob is everything you want in a heel faction leader. And when Tongaloa gets healthy again, I don't know if they'll add another person. We know that there are other family members on the roster that have not made a debut. There are family members on the Tongan side. There is one on the Fatu side. So we could be seeing a much larger faction form soon once people start coming back from injury. Still no word from Solo, though, which is interesting. But we're getting back to the match. Tama Tonga looks awesome. Tama Tonga, I think, is an incredibly underrated WWE wrestler. Like, if you watch his New Japan stuff, you know he's so good. But I think to the WWE fans, they haven't quite known what to expect yet. And he is starting to reveal himself to them. And he looks good. He looks so good. LA Knight was as solid as always. LA Knight, you're going to get a halfway decent match out of him every time he comes out. Usually a pretty good match, but they're going to be solid. They're going to be good. They're going to be consistently good. And he's going to put his best foot forward with everything he does. And sometimes his matches do depend on the opponent that he's facing. But for the most part, he is very solid. And we can expect a good match out of him. Damian Priest would end up picking the win up by pinning Tama Tonga. And Jacob, after being taken out, would emerge and attack Damian Priest to close the show. Great match. I give it an 83 out of 100, which is a 4.15. It's good into the show. Like, the show was consistent in staying around a high 3 as far as the match ratings go. It was a good show. But the pacing of watching it live was weird. And we'll have to see what they do tonight. I'm not quite sure if this is going to be a common issue or this was just kind of set up for the Rumble, right? We're getting ready for the Rumble. You want to promote it as much as you can. It's the following night. You want to get people interested and get people watching. But I think a lot of people that are watching SmackDown already are going to watch the Rumble, right? And it is what it is. But It did feel weird. I am looking forward to tonight. They haven't really announced anything for the night when I'm recording this. And so I am looking forward to tonight and seeing maybe if the pacing is better or if we're going to be struggling with this until SmackDown gets a new time slot, which they said is coming in a few months. They will get a new time slot. I think it'll be starting at the same time, but I think they're going to shorten it. I think 3 hours was a little too much. Like Triple H said that 2.5 is the optimal time, right? That's the time that they want to be running and the time that they're going to run. You see that with Netflix. They've been pretty consistent at that around 2.5 hour range outside of episode one. And so I think we'll move back into a 2.5 hour show and maybe see NXT move up to a 2.5 hour show, but that would move the start time to NXT up probably because the local news follows NXT in the United States. So maybe not, maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't mind a 2.5 hour NXT. I feel like they pack a ton into that 2 hour time slot and maybe giving them a little bit more time to flesh a few things out, maybe get another match in would be really good. I think it would be really good for NXT, especially with Evolve coming up. I'm very excited about Evolve. We're starting to see the WWE ID talent be involved with the WWE. Before, it's just been indie matches that they've posted on Twitter, or you can go see them live, right? And so Evolve will be changing the game a little bit. I've heard that NXT will no longer be the developmental brand. NXT will be basically a baby step into the main roster where a lot of these young kids will be after they've finished developmental. Evolve will become developmental. They'll move from developmental into NXT and then NXT into the main roster. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't work for the WWE, but I am excited for the future. I think this year is going to be very good for wrestling for the WWE. And I'm very excited to start it off. We're in February now. We had a good January. We're in February. And I think we're in for a good year looking at the last month that we've had. But I don't know. We've still got Elimination Chamber coming up. NXT Vengeance Day is coming up. So a lot of things could change. A lot of things could happen. We're looking at a lot going on, especially with Mania coming up. So I'm very excited. But that'll be it for this episode. This has been In Case You Missed It Wrestling, and I am your host, Blackhawk. And I will see you Tuesday now. Tuesday for Monday Night Raw. So I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I will see you then.